But basically, it's a classical online school, and we offer courses in Latin, Greek, logic, rhetoric, anything that you can have, anything that you would want to see at a classical school, you would have here. The difference is that it's online. If you have, for instance, a homeschool co-op, and you're having a difficult time finding someone to teach Latin or logic, you can enroll them in our courses and supplement your own teaching that way. So you don't have to, in other words, you don't have to enroll in the entire curriculum. You can kind of smorgasbord it, right? You can get what you need when you need it. So, again, if you have any questions, you can talk to me about it later. All right, so the schedule is, I was kind of confused by it when I first got it. Teaching logic 1, 2, and 3. When I was first asked to present, they said, can you present on 3 different things? Okay, so this is different. What I'm going to do now is going to be different from what I do from tomorrow, and what I do from tomorrow is going to be different from what I do now and tomorrow. What I do on Thursday is going to be different from what I'm doing today and tomorrow. Does that make sense? 3 different things. So teaching logic 1, my task is, what is logic and why do we teach it? Teaching logic 2, my task was, well, how do you teach it? And my task for teaching logic 3 is logic in the logic stage. So what you're going to be hearing today is what is logic and why do we teach it? So here we go. And I'll pause throughout for questions and then leave time for questions at the end. And Dorothy Sayers, in her famous essay, The Lost Tools of Learning, wrote, neglect informal logic in the curriculum is the root cause of nearly all those disquieting symptoms we have noted in the modern intellectual constitution. Those disquieting symptoms to which Sayers refers are those that she mentioned at the outset: resisting propaganda and mass marketing, distinguishing between true scholarly writing and slipshod writing, arguing well, defining terms and distinguishing other uses of the same term, following a sustained argument given by someone else, and the ability to learn on your own. Now, modern education's response to these disquieting symptoms, is to teach what they call critical thinking skills. The so-called critical thinking skills of modern education is actually a well-worn aphorism. It is on nearly every syllabus ever written under the rationale and purpose of any given course of study. I'm sure you remember this from your college days. To teach the students to think critically about fill in the blank. Now, if you were to ask 50 modern educators to define what critical thinking skills actually are, and how they are to be taught and instilled in the minds of students, you're sure to get 50 different answers, if you're lucky to get any answer at all. This has led Martin Cothran of Memorial Press to say, critical thinking skills is a hoax. And it is. Critical thinking skills is a specter, a siren song, that woos society, parents, students, and teachers alike, into believing that there is an ultimate purpose, a goal in mind that is beneficial to society, to what is being taught and to what is being learned. And that point, that goal, is to think and think critically. But this should raise the question, shouldn't it? To think critically about what? In other words, how can one teach, let alone learn, critical thinking skills when it cannot be certainly defined? And how can one think critically about a given thing when the very nature of things, when universals and objectivity are at the outset denied? Well, the answer is straightforward. You can't. And that's because this kind of thinking, this kind of critical thinking, fosters the mentality that questions, differs, probes, and disagrees, but in a relativistic fashion. It thinks critically about proposed answers because it doubts that there are any real answers at all. Now you can see a problem with this. And I'm sure you see that this is prevalent in society today. And so in this way, modern education's critical thinking skills becomes nothing other than the equivalent of saying, "Hi, how are you?" when you see someone in passing that you know. It just sounds good. It's what you're supposed to say. But nobody, and I mean nobody, no matter how nice you are, really wants the truth. Especially if your answer is anything different than fine. When I pass someone on the street and I know them and I say, "How are you?" I don't want an hour-long conversation. I don't want to know actually how you are. I'm just saying hi. I'm being nice. And that's what critical thinking skills has become. It's like an aphorism, a catchphrase that means really whatever each individual teacher, parent, or student thinks is good and right. It's an ambiguous term that allows for equivocation. And it explains why it is so popular. Because everyone is able to import its own meaning. And so that is why we teach logic. Logic is the classical educator's definition of and method for teaching real critical thinking skills. But if that is the case, then that means we must know what logic is. We need to know what real critical thinking skills are. And that's what good, what benefits they're to have on us. So, what is logic? The best definition of logic, I think, comes from James Nance, the logic instructor at the Logos School in Moscow, Idaho. It's the best because he states what others have said before in one sentence. Logic, he says, is the science and art of reasoning well. I'll say that again. Logic is the science and art of reasoning well. As a science, logic teaches the student to observe the human mind as it reasons, so that the student may discover the laws and rules that govern the mind that reasons well. And as an art, logic teaches the student then to apply those observed laws in different situations, whether they are in speaking, listening, reading, or writing. Now, there are two main branches of logic: informal logic and formal logic. Informal logic teaches the defining of terms, informal logical fallacies, something that we would call common sense reasoning. As classical educators, you are more than likely already teaching to a certain extent informal logic as you teach the liberal arts. Because you define terms. Define coming from the Latin definio, which is set a limit around. You set limits around words and concepts so that these may be apprehended by the mind and applied elsewhere. You may have even discussed some of the informal logical fallacies, circular reasoning, begging the question, ad hominem, and the like. But formal logic is where the rubber really hits the road. Formal logic is the study of the form of arguments. It's the study of their structure. Formal logic can also be divided into two branches, inductive and deductive. Inductive logic is the logic of the experimental and observational sciences and criminal forensics. It deals with arguments of likelihood and probability. It makes conclusions from specific facts or experience, but the conclusions of inductive arguments go beyond the premises, because it states something about the whole of a thing by only observing part of the thing. It doesn't have all the evidence, in other words. That is why it deals with likelihood. That's why there's only probability in observational science. That is why in criminal cases they're asked to base their verdicts on the preponderance of evidence. Inductive arguments are either strong or weak, and that depends on how well the evidence supports the conclusion, how much evidence you have for the whole. Deductive arguments, on the other hand, are not strong or weak. They are valid or invalid. If valid, the conclusion necessarily follows from the premises. And so, if the premises are true, the conclusion must necessarily be true also. And so, the categorical or Aristotelian syllogism is the most common form of the deductive argument. The classic example is all men are mortal, Socrates is a man, therefore Socrates is mortal. And then throughout formal logic, we begin to take those terms and premises and change them into symbols so that they can be analyzed and proven valid or invalid by various rules, the rules of logic, by Venn diagrams or Euler circles, by counterexamples and the like. And so the syllogism that I just gave you, all men are mortal, Socrates is the man, therefore Socrates is mortal. The argument is, that becomes all M is P, all S is M, therefore all S is P. The point of this is to look at the form, not necessarily what the content is. Because if we can look at the form and say, this is invalid, we can automatically say that your conclusion does not follow from your premises. And so we don't have to discuss whether his premises are true. It doesn't matter. The conclusion doesn't follow. That's why we learn formal logic. So that we have two ways of dealing with people who disagree with us. The form of their argument and then the content. And so the N stands for the middle term, the S stands for the subject of the conclusion, and the P stands for the predicate of the conclusion. That is what logic is. It's looking at arguments, determining whether they are weak or strong, valid or invalid. But what's the value of knowing this? What good, what benefit is it to have this type of logic? Well, I'm not going to discuss the benefit of the observational sciences. I hope that since we know, that we have a Mayo Clinic, Barnes Hospital, and Riley Children's Hospital, we understand the benefit of observational science. And since most of you came here either by plane or car, right? Okay. But formal logic, that's what we're going to discuss. What is the good of formal logic? So you may be wondering, what can I do with this? A better question, or the answer to that, is that logic can do something with you. In other words, logic builds the mental habit of thinking in an orderly way. And so it gives us order. Of course, in logic, does this even if every detail learned is forgotten, which it won't be, just as learning Latin makes us more habitually aware of the structure of language, even if we were to forget every particular Latin word and rule, which we don't. No course is more practical than logic. For no matter what you are thinking about, you are thinking. And logic orders and clarifies our thinking. No matter what the content of thought is, it will be clearer when it has logical form. The principles of thinking logically can be applied to all thinking and to every field. As mentioned earlier, logic studies the forms, the structures of thought. Thought has form and structure as well. Thought is not like a blank screen that receives its form only from the world that appears on it, as a movie screen receives a movie. A course in logic will show you the basic forms, the basic structures, the basic laws, rules of thinking. And it will help you put things into their proper order. So order is a good of logic. The second is power. Logic is power. The power of proof and thus of persuasion. Now, any power can either rightly be used or it can be abused. The power of logic is rightly used to win the truth and defeat error. It is wrongly used to win the argument and defeat your opponent. Argument is to truth as fishing is to fish, or war to peace, or courtship to marriage. We seek the truth, not winning. Although winning is really good. The power of logic comes from the fact that it is the science and art of argument, of reasoning well. As Thomas Good wrote in his 1677 text, A Brief English Tract of Logic, logic hath its name from logos ratio, because it is an art which teaches reason and discourse. Whereas Peter Ramus Martyr wrote in his 1574 book, Logic, dialectic, otherwise called logic, is an art which teaches to dispute well. And so we're learning how to argue. So be careful when you teach your kids. Remind them that the fourth commandment still applies. I always remind my students that the fourth commandment still applies. So whatever you use logic for, right or wrong, it's a powerful tool. No matter what our thoughts, end, or goal or purpose may be, it will attain that end more effectively if it is clearer and more logical. Even if you want to do something with logic rather than letting logic do something with you, even if you want to deceive others or toy with them, you need to know logic in order to be a successful sophist. You must be a real logician, even to be a fake. Our third good is testing authority. We need authority as well as we need logic. But we need logic to test our authorities. We need authorities because no individual can discover everything autonomously. We all do, in fact, rely on human community, and therefore on the authority of others, parents, teachers, textbooks, experts, friends, history, and even tradition. And we rely on these authorities for a surpassingly large portion of what we know. And this is why we need logic. We need to have good reason for believing those authorities. For in the end, it is the individual who must decide which authorities to trust. It is obviously foolish to buy from every peddler of ideas that knocks on your mind's door. In fact, it is impossible to do that because they often contradict each other. And so we need logic to test our authorities. Which brings us to our next good, recognizing contradictions. One of the things that you will learn in studying logic is exactly what contradiction means, how to recognize it, and what to do with it. Logic teaches us which ideas contradict each other. If we are confused about what contradiction is, we will either be too exclusive, that is, we will think that beliefs logically exclude each other when they do not, or we will be too inclusive, that is, we will believe two things that cannot both be true. And so when we consider two different ideas that seem to contradict each other, we need to know three things. We need to know exactly what each one means, because only then can we know whether they really contradict each other or not. Second, and if they do contradict each other, we need to know which one is true and which one is false. And third, and we do this by finding reasons why one idea is true and another is false. These are the three acts of the mind: understanding the meaning, comprehension, judging what is true, judgment, and reasoning, drawing a conclusion. They are the answers to the three questions we should always be asking. What is it? Whether it is, and why it is. And these three acts of the mind are the three parts of logic that you learn in any logic course worth its salt. Notice this is how our catechism works. What is baptism? Where do you find this? Why? What are your reasons for believing this? The catechism gives you the logic of the Lutheran faith. Besides these fundamental goods that we just discussed, logic will help you with every other course that you take, or teach in this matter. Because logic will help you to read any book more clearly and effectively. And you are always going to be reading books. Books are the single most effective technological invention in the history of education. They're not going anywhere. As Peter Kreeft has said, on the basis of over 40 years of full-time college teaching, of almost 20,000 students at 20 different schools, I am convinced that one of the reasons for the steep decline in students' reading ability is the decline in the teaching of traditional logic. They can't follow the argument, as Dorothy Sayre said. But besides reading, logic will also help you write more clearly and effectively. Because clear writing and clear thinking are a package deal. The presence or absence of either one brings the presence or absence of the other. Muddled writing fosters muddled thinking, and muddled thinking fosters muddled writing. Clear writing fosters clear thinking, and clear thinking fosters clear writing. Common sense expects this, and scientific studies even confirm it. So if a person's writing is muddled, or even his speaking from the pulpit is muddled, you're thinking he doesn't know what he's talking about. He hasn't thought it through. And vice versa. But it also helps us with our religious faith. Even religion, though it goes beyond logic, cannot go against it. If it did, it would literally be unbelievable. And even though Maureen O'Hara in The Miracle on 34th Street defines faith as believing what you know is true, we simply cannot believe an idea to be true once it has been proved to be false by valid logical proof. As Dr. Stephen Meyer, a proponent of intelligent design and author of Signature in the Cell and Darwin's Doubt, has stated, the heart cannot exult in what the mind rejects. And so while it's true that faith goes beyond what can be proved by logical reasoning alone, logic, however, can aid faith, and it does so in at least three ways. First, logic often clarifies what is believed, giving it order in the mind and defining it. Our catechism. Second, logic can deduce the necessary consequences of what is believed and apply it to different and even difficult situations. So consider Romans 8:28. We know that for those who love God, all things work together for good. What's the logical consequence of that? How do we know that this is true? What is it about God that makes it so? That He is omniscient, all-powerful, and all good, which we know also from the Scriptures. So if this is who God is, He knows all things, is powerful, has made and created all things, and preserves them, and He is all good. This gives us reasons to believe that this isn't the case, despite the circumstances that we are facing at the time. And then third, even if logical arguments can't prove all that faith believes, they can give firmer reasons for faith than feeling, desire, mood, fashion, family, social pressure, conformity, or inertia. So if you believe Romans 8:28 when you're feeling good, what happens when you're not? What gives you the reasons for believing it when you don't feel good? Or when you actually are suffering? Logic helps you puzzle that reasoning through. There are even crucial social and political reasons for studying logic. As Thomas Jefferson said, in a republican nation whose citizens are to be led by reason and persuasion and not by force, the art of reasoning becomes of first importance. If only it were still so. But as Dr. Mark Kaltoff, an LCMS layman and professor of history at Hillsdale College, has argued, even the Declaration of Independence is not so much a declaration as it is an argument, a statement of reasons, one very long syllogism for why revolution. Now that can only happen where logic is known and used, and we can only understand it by the same. But our final reason, which I've already alluded to, our final reason for studying logic is the simplest and it is the most important of all. It is that logic helps us to find truth, which is worth knowing for its own sake. Logic helps us to do this first by demanding that we define our terms so that we understand what we mean. And second, by demanding that we give good reasons, good arguments, and proofs. Truth is worth knowing for its own sake because it fulfills and perfects our minds, which is part of our very essence. It's what makes us distinctly human. Truth is to our minds what food is to our bodies. And so in Book 4 of his Ethics, Aristotle puts forth 3 reasons for pursuing truth and 3 corresponding sciences, in the older, broader sense of the word, meaning rational explanations through causes. He called the 3 kinds of sciences productive sciences, practical sciences, theoretical sciences. The productive sciences study the world to learn about it so that we can change it, improve it, and make things out of it. The end of the productive sciences is to produce things. So this includes engineering, medicine, automaking, repair, cooking, and the like. The practical sciences study ourselves so that we can change and improve our own lives, our behavior, our activities. The end of the practical sciences is to put knowledge into practice, into action. And so ethics, politics, even economics. The theoretical sciences, though, seek to know simply in order to know. That is, to become bigger on the inside. The end of the theoretical sciences is to see more fully, to expand our understanding and contemplate our place in this world. This is sorely lacking today, even in our own churches. How many pastors do we have today? Does anyone have more than 75% of their Sunday morning attendance in Bible class? Does anyone have 50%? Hey, you're the man. It usually runs about 33.3%, right? How many of you heard, I don't hear anything new in the sermon. I don't learn anything. Now, that could be a commentary on the preacher, but it could just as well be commentary on the lack of knowing for knowing. That they don't seek it. Anyway.
Is that a trend that's going down as we get farther and farther from a true sense of logic or culture?
What trend? You mean trend?
Less people in most like most people.
I couldn't answer that. I mean, I was only giving you sort of my own experience. I don't have to, I don't understand. Yeah. So this includes physics, biology, theology, mathematics, astronomy, philosophy. That all these have applications and uses is not to be disputed. But they are first of all aimed at simply knowing and understanding the truth, even if there is no immediate practical or productive application. Theoretical science is the task that you have as a classical educator, because the original meaning of a liberal arts education was this: the study of the truth for its own sake. Not only for the sake of what you can do with it or what you can make with it. The term liberal arts comes from Aristotle. He said that just as a man is called free when he exists for his own sake, and a slave when he exists for the sake of another, so these studies are called free, liberal, liberating, because they exist for their own sake and not for the sake of anything else. And so logic will prove useful in many ways, but its most important use is simply to help us see more clearly what is true and what is false. Logic alone can't tell you what is true. It will only aid you in discovering what is true and giving you the tools to do so. You also need experience through books, lectures, investigation, observation, in order to get your premises. But logic helps you draw conclusions, to help you know the truth. And a life full of discovering the truth, a life full of knowing the truth, is precisely what we as classical educators seek to instill in our students, and seek to live for ourselves. And since logic helps us to discover this, we need to teach it, not only as a part of other subjects, but as a subject itself. Any questions? I mean, I'm done.
Pastor Braaten, I have heard people make a connection between logic and logos, between Christ as the wisdom or logic of God. Have you heard those arguments, and if so, could you respond to them?
Well, I've heard that, this is the case. St. Paul says that Christ is the wisdom of God.
What is the connection? Can you expound on that a little for me?
Well, logos is, a thing, a word, a matter, from where we get our word logic from. So it's, it's an ordering principle. So, if Christ is the logos, what is the ordering principle of our world? In other words, what created it? What brought it into existence? How did it come to be? God spoke it. So Christ, as the Word became flesh, He is that Word, that ordering principle, the thing that calls everything into existence that became flesh to dwell among us. And so it is wisdom, order, all of that wrapped up together.
So how far can you push this connection between logic and Christ? All right.
I guess my question is, what connection are you trying to...
Well, I guess
what connection are you calling into question?
Well, I don't know. Maybe that's my problem. I don't have it clear enough. But I've heard things like, Sproul, R.C. Sproul, talk about Christ as the arche, the logic, like you're saying, the ordering principle. When we're studying logic, we're not studying Christ. So I'm trying to see where that connection can actually exist. But maybe that's a topic for discussion rather than an answer.
I don't think I would ever argue that when you study logic, you're studying Christ. You're studying the fundamental principles that have come to us in God, from God, when you're studying logic. I mean, just like, when you study the laws of nature, you're studying the things that God placed in nature.
Oh, good. That's good. Yes.
Right? So the laws of logic, when you're studying natural law, right? You're studying the things that God set up in the universe. That's part of the fabric of the universe. The laws of logic are part of the fabric of the universe. So, I mean, I don't think I would say you're studying Christ. That kind of seems silly. But it's from Him. Does it reveal something about Him? Does it reveal the full Him? No. But does it give us the tools to find Him? To seek Him? To discover the truth or the true Him or the false Him? Does that make sense?
That is helpful, yes.
Question?
Yeah,
Dr. Scholl.
maybe this will help a little bit. My mentor taught me that the Greeks associated logos with the opposite of chaos. So it was the ordering principle of the universe, and they believed that if you could follow the logos, you would find God. And I've always kind of Christianized that in my mind in terms of the way, the truth, and the light.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I mean, that's
for what it's worth.
I mean, this is what Augustine does, right? When he responds to Plato, and says, "I found, everything in Plato in the scriptures except that the Word became flesh and dwelt among us." That ordering principle actually finds us. Is what I took from Augustine's argument. It's been a long time since I read his confession, so if you read more recently, sorry if I didn't put you that. You have a question?
I wondered if I admit I forget what you're talking about tomorrow, Wednesday, but I wondered if you could talk a little bit about what makes a study of logic particularly Christian as opposed to an unbeliever's study of logic.
I mean, that's a good question. The Christian immediately recognizes that just like the laws of nature, the laws of logic came from, a logic bird, someone who put the logic there. So it's always held captive to the one who created it. And in that way, serves under the one who created it. So when you have His revealed Word, right, logic doesn't supersede His Word, but as it becomes a handmaiden to understanding that Word, to being able to draw conclusions from that Word. Does that make sense? Is that what you were asking?
So the person and work of God in Christ and in creation and redemption is your underlying presupposition. What is the unbeliever left with as an underlying presupposition?
Are you answering that?
I just wanted to give I don't want to answer it. I just wanted to give an opinion. It seems to me as an unbeliever, studying logic would never be complete, would never be as good or organized as it would be for a believer, because we have that final.
Well, I mean, here's what I think what you're left with is someone who then is seeking truth and has not yet found it. I mean, from a Christian's perspective, we've already found that truth. Right? So, they are still like Socrates, seeking.
That's why Plato leaves us with questions.
Yeah.
I was going to wonder if I could just add to that a little bit. I've been thinking about this recently, reading some formerly Christian apologists. And I think this is where the Reformed tradition does a real disservice to Christianity, with their role of reason in Christianity. Whereas we have the ministerial use of logic. They don't really work in that category. And I think as we see logic as a first article gift, a tool for us in this world under God and creation, where to the previous topic, Christ is not, or reason is not Christ, but Christ is reason. And so we would recognize that there's a limit to logic, that the rules are the same whether you're a Christian or a non-Christian, just as the rules for assembling a car are the same. And yet, the Christian realizes that there's more to truth than logic. That logic has limits.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But I think if you pick up a book by a non-Christian, we study a lot of logic back in university. It's a good logic book. It's about logic. There's nothing wrong with it. But at the end of the day, the truth that it gets, that there's limits to the truth that it can attain. So. Yeah.
So, I need you to review for me what you said at the beginning about critical thinking. So as I sat and listened to all of this, and then listened to how we say, as a classical educator, we teach logic, I forgot the critical thinking. I got the gist that it says, hi, how are you?
Yeah, well, I mean, right. Within modern education, critical thinking skills, that is it's a hoax because they don't actually teach any skill.
So what are they doing? Do you know what I'm thinking? I want to know then, when they're saying, teach critical thinking in this, is that just words they're putting on the paper in order to pacify someone in administration?
Yeah.
They're not actually doing anything.
Well, that's not true. They're teaching. That's a good question.
It's problem solving. It's deconstructing Western civilization.
Exactly. It's deconstruction.
Skepticism.
So they're teaching to probe and to question any answers provided by the past, because deep down they don't think that there are any answers. But that's the perfect answer. Yes.
I actually have a good answer for that specifically and what they're trying to do. I studied education for several years in language, and this is one of the issues that we dealt with. The critical thinking comes from that area of, and if you went to college to become an educator, probably learn about learning styles and things like this, and verbal and spatial reasoning. These kinds of terms tend to dominate now. When we talk about reasoning and psychological development, what they're addressing is the way the brain works, this cognitive process, the way the brain functions. And so they use these types of questions and these types of exploration not to really seek any answers, not to provide the students an opportunity to learn what we're interested in, which is the epistemological process, but to give the brain practice processing verbally and spatially, from those types of stimuli. So that's what's going on there. The questions are pretty much irrelevant. It's just teaching the brain to use these different facilities. So that type of stuff is completely replaced. The epistemological process, informal logic, formal logic, terms like inductive and deductive are completely.
So my response was, logic is what critical thinking skill actually is, what it should be, and that's how we teach it. So I'm not saying don't use critical thinking skills, but you may as well just, if you're going to say, and what I mean by that is logic.
Defining critical thinking by logic, which is using logic, now I'm defining my term.
Right. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Yes.
Can I offer a parallel to that, and I think it derives from this nebulous critical thinking skills, because I don't think although it often derives from relativism, I don't think it necessarily comes from that. I always think about in freshman writing classes for college, they go to a writing class and teach how to write. Well, what do they teach you? What is writing without concept, right? And so you had mentioned what is, to think about what, to think critically about what. It's the same thing as writing. I think that this actually derives from this obsession with, this cognitive development and, the not asking the epistemological questions. But
they're more interested in method than content.
Yeah, and full disclosure, my wife teaches freshman writing, so I give her a hard time for it. But I was asking her, so what are they writing about? She says, well, they're doing argument, right? They're doing, there's always content with it, and you're groping then for some content. I feel like that's what happens with critical thinking skills. Well, what are we teaching? How are we going to teach children to think critically? Well, we're going to grope for content now to fill that box that we've created.
I'm sorry, I feel very bold right now. I have to recommend an essay by Richard Weaver called To Write the Truth.
I can't believe that you're quoting it.
To Write the Truth. He taught freshman English at University of Chicago, and he wrote down, he did a Latin kind of etymology of viriloque versus utiliter loqui, about what do we wish to make our students eloquent. And it's really a good little think piece.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes.
There's nothing new that I am going to really add, just a re-summation in different terminology.
Okay.
Part of it seems to me, the issue of modern education versus the classical approach in terms of the formal logic is that the traditional approach versus the progressive approach, you have an underlying presupposition of the questioning of truth itself. So in terms of the methodology, the discovery of truth for someone in this day and age is discover the truth for you, versus the formal education that there is such thing as truth, and it can be apprehended by formal principles of logic.
Yeah, and that's what I meant by how can you do this when you reject universals? Anything else? Or I guess we got up early. We started early. Got it.
Can you just sketch real briefly again what you plan to do the next couple of sessions?
Oh, sure. My assignments